When you repeat the same thing multiple times, I think it just becomes a usual thing for you and it's not an issue anymore.
In realistic approach, it means nothing more that this person does not want to go out with me. And that means nothing about me. It doesn't say, oh, I'm not friendly, I'm stupid, I'm just unsuccessful as a human being, and so on.
Welcome to the Volunteer Support Podcast, brought to you by the European Union's co-funded project Promptus.edu, a collaboration between associations Audi South Mori and Building Bridges.
Welcome to Volunteer Support Podcast, where we address common volunteer questions and concerns. Today's episode is, will I be able to connect with new people? And it's all about building relationships and connecting in new environment. Today with you, Audi South Mori team, Gabriele and Tadas.
Hello everyone.
And our guest, Paulius.
Hello everyone.
Paulius has participated in multiple Erasmus exchange programs, and he will be sharing with us his thoughts and his experiences. I would like to make a short introduction about today's topic and how did this episode came up. So during the summer, we visited Madrid. We met people and many volunteers when we asked about their fears and doubts before going abroad. And one of the fears was, will I be able to connect with new people? In my opinion, this sounded very valid and important topic to talk about because relationships influence our experiences and our feelings a lot. Connection is the base need. Without it, we can feel lonely, sad, insignificant, or even depressed. Relationships in general are a very interesting topic for us, and we would like to dive into this topic with you. So I would like to ask you, what popped into your head when you hear the topic of today's podcast? The question, will I be able to connect with new people?
When I'm hearing this question, I remember that I had a lot of situations in my life where I had to connect with new people, where it was in the kindergarten or in the school or in some activities after schools that I participated or university or so on. So we have all lots of different environments in which we are connecting with new people. So that the same was for me. And I was able to connect with most of the people, not all of the people. Ability to connect with other people from my experience depends really about my skills. Because early in the childhood, I didn't have skills to talk that much, and to connect with other people, it's much harder when you're not talking or talking very rarely. But when I improved my speaking skills, it was much easier. And also it depends on other people. If they are able to answer you in just one word or a couple sentences, so the latter option is just much easier to communicate. And then it really depends if you have common interests with another people. If you have some common interest, so then you can connect based on those interests. And that helps for sure.
What I'm hearing from you, that will I be able to connect with new people, it not only depends on me. From my side, yeah, the skills, the topics, maybe what I'm bringing, but also from other people, are they sharing similar interests and so on.
It's not just one person's responsibility. The relationship is at least from two sides.
Yes.
How about you, Paulius?
Yeah, that's a good question. But when I hear this question, will I be able to connect with new people? I'm hearing the doubt. If I'm good enough person, it depends on me if I'm able to connect with new people. Because I think saying that, will I be able to connect with new people, maybe it's a little bit wrong, because it's not depends only on me, but also on other people as well. So shortly saying, I hear a certainty from the person that is asking this question, because if you will be sure that you will be able to connect with new people or that you're able to connect with new people, I think you never will ask this question for yourself. So I hear uncertainty and maybe blaming yourself that maybe you're not good enough to just communicate with others.
I completely agree. And what I'm hearing is for your relationships, you are sharing responsibility. Not only one side should invest into bringing the best topic, bringing the best conversations, but both people or the team or so on, you are sharing this responsibility for your connection together. From my side, what I'm hearing about this topic, I hear a doubt, I hear a fear, maybe fear of rejection, fear of unknown, what is waiting for you, what kind of people are waiting for you, and we don't want this rejection, so it's very natural, this fear, and I completely understand that. But in this episode, I would like to talk about what we can do about it, how we can sure that from our side we did what we could, and then we relaxed. If it's not working, it's not on our responsibility. So I have another question for you. How do you feel surrounded with new people, and is it easy for you to find connection with these new people?
Personally, in my childhood, that was very difficult for me. When I remember when I was at 5th or 6th form in my secondary school, when I needed to go to the teacher's room, that was very hard for myself to do that. And even I remember that my mother called my class head teacher to just ask to help solve the problem. And I remember that time that then my class head teacher just picked me up and just pushed to the teacher's room and find the teacher that I needed to talk. That was not comfortable, but that is just one of the examples that I was quite shy and it was very difficult for me. But eventually, after graduating the school, I started studying at university. But that wasn't a usual program, but in addition, I was accepted in Students' Talent Academy called The Gifted. And that was very useful experience for my personal development because I had to meet a lot of new people, including person that is a CEO of a big corporate. So then it's the first time you need to meet such person. You are very uncomfortable and not sure if you will be able to prove that you are good enough to have such an opportunity to talk to him or that you're not wasting his time. So these experiences in university helped improve the skill to just understand that every person is like you and you don't need to talk too much, that you will not be good enough to talk to those people. And after graduating from university, I was already working in the company and I collected quite a lot of PTOs. So Tadas suggested to me going to Erasmus projects. So that was one more experience for me. And when I remember the first time when I went to the first Erasmus project, that as well was very uncomfortable situation. But when you meet a lot of new people and that everyone gather at the same place, and it is very funny actually to communicate with other people because you have the common background and you came usually with similar interests. And after that first Erasmus project, that was actually very funny to me, and also it was very good experience as well, considering personal development. It broadened my knowledge about other cultures and meeting other people that usually has similar interests as you helps to communicate with new people. And when multiple people have the same interest, I think it is one of the key points how to just communicate easier with others when you have the same interests.
Okay, so that was your first youth exchange project, as I remember.
Yes, that was the first one.
And how was it different to the other ones that you went?
Or maybe the last one. How did you feel during this interaction with new people? How was it for you to connect with them compared to the first project when you felt nervous?
I think probably my nervous about the first and last project was a little bit different because for the last project I was a team lead from my national team. So
quite brave.
So that was experience because I was more concerned about others, not myself. And the first project was quite nervous about myself, if it will be people there, how I will travel there. And during last project, so it's quite usual. You are quite comfortable traveling alone and don't care that much that something goes wrong or not.
So the things that was uncomfortable in the beginning, then for you it was usual stuff, and traveling and so on was not making you worried about that.
Yes, when you repeat the same thing multiple times, I think it just becomes a usual thing for you and it's not an issue anymore.
So what I'm hearing, that if you have experience about that particular thing, it makes you more brave about that. You have more self-confidence, and then it is not an issue for you to communicate with other people and so on, because you're not worrying about all the other things.
Yeah, that's correct. Basically, yeah, you need to just use try and error methods. Just try, and if you fail, maybe think what you did wrong, just adjust what your actions and continue.
Yeah, it's not the thing that you are trying and then you're just failing and you're dying. No, it's not that thing. So,
Thanks God.
Yeah. So we are social creatures and we are afraid usually of that contact, to be rejected, because that long ago it could mean that we are dying, because if someone is just rejecting us from the tribe, then we can't get our food, we are alone, and that's very worrying. But nowadays we have lots of different groups, we can choose another and so on, another project, and it's not an issue. So what do you think, Gabriela, about this question?
Okay, I'm not an exception. I also feel nervous around new people. Usually, I think during the time I also develop better communication skills, and for me to connect is not that hard anymore. But do I feel nervous? Yes, I do. Even today, I feel nervous, even though I meet new people quite often. Yeah, but having skills is making me less worried about it. What about you, Tadas?
I feel that I have already answered this question a bit before, because I also shared my experience. But what I heard from both of your answers, Paulius and Gabriela, is that you had similar experience that I did, that in the beginning it was harder, and later on we developed communication skills to easier communicate with others. Yeah, it was the same for me. And I was in multiple youth exchange and training for trainers courses. I believe it is around 7. And for me, it was not that hard at all. When I was in a second year of university, I went to the front of auditory during one conference, and that conference was about business. And I'm from medical field, I'm a medical doctor. At that time, I was a medical student. And I was thinking about doing business, and the lecturer asked anyone that has some ideas to come to the front. I didn't have any idea. And there was like 500 people in the auditory. So that was a lot. And without knowing what I will say, I went up front, I took the microphone and I started to talk. So for me, it is a result of the development of myself that I had. During 7th grade, I thought that, I don't have a skill of communication, but if I want to tell what I really want to tell, I need to have that skill. So I started to learn small talks and so on. So when I was in university, I already developed those skills, and for me it was not hard to communicate with new people. And even I developed ability to communicate in front of a lot of unknown people. Probably you can sense that to go up front to 500 people that you don't know can be scary. And it was a bit scary, but it was not that scary that I would not go. And I went and I talked quite well, I would say, and I really like what I could do, because I could not imagine that in the beginning of my life. So then during all the exchanges, I was very comfortable with everyone. But for me, what really helped is the thing that I understand that everyone is afraid of something. And some people has better communication skills than others, but everyone is vulnerable at some point. And we are all not perfect. And we just want to connect with somebody. sometimes we don't want to connect with someone else because maybe we don't like them, but it's just a skill that we can develop, and then we can have that self-confidence. Even though someone else doesn't want to communicate with us, it doesn't matter for us, because we understand that if we want to talk with someone, we can, but that person is just doesn't worth our time.
So even though you don't know the questions I prepared, but you kind of make a nice introduction for the next question. So another question for the discussion could be, do you agree that self-confidence is related with how comfortable are we feeling in the new group?
So I can start because the answer of mine was quite similar to this question. So I agree.
Me too.
The discussion is quite short. I also agree with that. But then I would like to broaden this topic by what is influencing our self-confidence. And I believe that self-confidence is related to understanding and controlling the things that we can control, and understanding what the things we cannot control, and just accepting that these things are not under my control. So I will love to talk about it later on. But then I have another question for us. Now, do you have any advices how to connect easier and how to build relationships with the new environment? Maybe you have some kind of strategy or advice that you are using and you would like to share.
I would say just use a KISS principle. So that is, keep it simple and stupid. So basically, just go and talk. I think just only the first step is the hardest one. And you probably feel nervous at that time. But once you just start speaking with anyone, it just comes naturally. And also that could depend on other person if he, she accepts you or not. But the most important just to make that first step and don't think too much about that.
I agree with you, Paulius. It's very important to go and start talking, and that's the most important part. What I also recommend is to ask that person, what does he like, how did he came here, and so on. Because usually people like to talk about themselves. And usually we are talking too much about ourselves and we are not enough listening to others. So I would say that person could feel that the conversation was wonderful, even though that he was the only person that talked, and I had this in my experience. Because if you're just asking and that person is just talking, and quite often they like it very much. And of course you can also talk about yourself, and if you're open about yourself, that can also connect with other person deeper, because openness is very connecting. I would also suggest for you to be as open as you can. Not fully open, you shouldn't be fully open with the stranger that you just met, but open enough to tell something that happened to you during the trip or something that you are worried about and so on. So I believe it can be quite good starting conversation. What do you think, Gabriela?
I completely agree with the point that people love to talk about them, and sometimes the conversation is actually about one person. I use this technique. For me, it helps to build this connection, these new connections. But I would like to share from my part, as I consider myself introvert and I have very limited amount of social energy that I can share. I do love to talk to people. I do like to be included. I want to be accepted. But I have limited amount of energy that I can give for the person to the conversation. For example, yes, for me, it's easy to build this new relationship, build this new connection. And I'm trying to do that upfront. So in the beginning, I'm trying to connect with as many people as positively as I can. And later on, sometimes I exhaust my social energy. But later on, I know these people, I have some kind of connection with them, and I don't need to be pushing myself too much to contact every single time to them and be as open, as energetic as I can. So this is my way. How do I deal as an introvert with this kind of situations? And I'm in a new environment, I'm in a new group. So further, I would like to talk what I mentioned before is to understand what is under our control, what is not in our control. So first of all, it could be beneficial to define what kind of new people are we trying to connect to. So let's say you are planning to go abroad and you are trying to build a relationship. What kind of people would it be? So one group could be your co-workers, the organization that you are going to be in. Maybe in that organization there are other volunteers. So it would be easier to connect with them because they're sharing similar experiences and maybe background, same as you. The other group would be your roommates. So it's a whole relationship with them, how to deal with the conflicts and so on. That probably needs to have another episode for that. And there are people who you just meet in the new city. It's important to understand what is under our control and what isn't. Understanding the balance between what you can and cannot control helps to approaching social interaction with a realistic mindset. By focusing on aspects within your control, you can maximize your efforts to form connections while remaining adaptable to external factors. If we connect depends on many things, and not all of them are under our control. We can break down some of them. So I would like to start with the things we cannot control. So let's say we cannot control other people's responses. You cannot control how they will respond to your attempt to connect. People have their own personalities, preferences, and comfort levels, similarly as Paulus mentioned. There are also external circumstances that we cannot control. External factors like weather, location, event, or unexpected changes in plan, or the opportunities, whether we can meet these new people or we cannot. Let's say we agreed to meet with another person and it's raining, and maybe you are worried, oh no, everything has to be perfect, but it's not under your control. Maybe you can let go because you cannot do nothing about it. Also, another thing that you cannot control is cultural differences. While you can adapt and respect cultural differences, you cannot control cultural background and perspective of others. Understanding and navigating these differences are essential for effective communication, but some of them might be different than yours. Another thing we cannot control is timing, whether you meet new people and the circumstances which you encounter. Some connections will happen spontaneously and we can be just open about it and we cannot plan them.
So I think that timing partially can be controlled. So sometimes we have planned meetings and sometimes it's unexpected.
Yes, I agree. What is under our control, we can make some time for the people, let's say, but we cannot know whether this is going to happen or not. Maybe we have an expectation that the second day that I'm coming to Madrid, I will meet my new best friend, but maybe it's not going to happen, but
It's just
too high expectation.
I would say that expectation to just talk to one or two people is good enough. And that talk could mean to have a person that you can talk more, that you can have a good connection, but for sure not about best friend, because that's too high expectation to have.
I agree. I have tried to hyperbolize it. So let's talk about things that you can control. So you can control your attitude. You can control your attitude by choosing to be positive, open-minded, and approachable. A friendly and optimistic demeanor can make it easier to connect with you. Another thing that you can control is initiative. Taking initiative to introduce yourself, start this conversation, and invite others to join the activities or event. Being proactive in building connections, increasing the likelihood of forming relationships. What you cannot control, whether the person will agree to go out with you or not. But you can be initiative, which makes it more likely that you are going to find a new friend. Another thing that you can't control is to build communication skills, improving your communication skills, such as active listening, expressing yourself clearly, and adapting your communication style to the cultural context. Effective communication is crucial for building strong relationships, but as any other skill, communication skill is learned by trying and error, similarly as Paulus said. Another thing that you can't control is your openness to new experiences. Being open to try new things, exploring different cultures, and engaging in activities that you might not have experienced before. This openness can lead to shared experience and bonding. And similarly, as Tada said, being open usually helps to build new relationships. Being vulnerable, being open often helps. So the last one is also making time for socializing. Allocating time for social activities, events, and interactions, being intentional about making time for socializing can contribute to building relationships.
So, Gabriele, you listed quite a lot of things, some of the things we talked about, some things that we didn't mention. I remembered saying that it's silly to be angry about the weather, so the thing that you can't control, but it's also silly to think that you can't change your behavior or your thinking about something. Because if the weather is rainy, what you can change, it's not the weather. But what you can change is your attitude, your thinking about the weather. You can think, oh, that's raining, that's fun, I can run around and I can be wet, and it's summer rain and I love it. So that's your point of view to the thing. The same with conversation. If you have a view that, oh, I have to be perfect there and everything should be perfect, so then it's really hard. But if you have a view that, okay, I will make some mistakes, it's natural, everyone makes mistakes, I will just talk with someone and I will connect with someone, maybe I will not connect with someone else, it doesn't matter for me. So that's how it goes.
I also would like to add about communication skills, about the strategy. Actually, I heard before and even today from one of the CEO that it's also important to show that you are vulnerable. So then another person much easier opens up to you and then shares the mistakes, and then you can just try to together to solve them.
That's very interesting because I didn't hear this advice from someone else, but I tried that in my life, and I would say that vulnerability actually helps for other person to not use defense, because that person doesn't feel attacked. He feels quite safe, and then he's talking you easier. And I had experience in the middle school that I had lesson of the theater, and a person from the parallel class asked me, why are you so open? And for me it was quite strange because I didn't think that I was open, but that person said that you will be vulnerable and someone will harm you. Until this day I didn't change my point of view, and I didn't got hurt because of that. Yeah, I believe this really helps to connect easier and just to talk with lots of different people. And actually what's also happening in quite various projects, I'm actively listening, and I would say people are talking a lot, and sometimes I'm feeling like a psychologist to some people because they're sharing really a lot about their lives and asking for advices about some quite deep stuff, I would say. And even though that's the first week that we are talking, so that really helps quickly to make connection with other person.
I think speaking about vulnerability, if you are trying to be vulnerable with someone and someone is open up to you to be vulnerable, then it's really important for you to make this safe space to share and be accepting. Because if you come to the point where you ask a personal question and person is sharing their deepest self, and then you be like, no, that's wrong. I do not accept it. So it's just good to remember that if someone is willing to share with you, try to be open and accept that. And these conversations for me is the reason why I am pushing myself in the beginning to be social. And I ask a lot of questions about the person. And for me, often also happens where the person like, I'm not sure, why am I telling this to you? I never tell to no one. And it's like the craziest conversation sometimes you're having, and this fulfills, and therefore I understand why I'm putting this energy into it.
I totally agree with you, Gabriela. Open-mindedness is very important in this. And I have this. And as I hear, you have it too. And so that's the reason why some people are talking a lot. And also it's about active listening, because you're not just listening, but you're hearing what that person is saying, and you're keeping the space for that person to think and maybe say more. So it's just saying and saying, and then you're asking, maybe you want to add something more, and that person is talking even more. So that's the skill, and that really helps. And what I would say, that I have met some people that was not open-minded at all, and they are stopping you, and you can't tell them more because they have their opinion, and their opinion is the right one, and they know everything, and they are just repeating their own opinion, and they are leaving you like 5 seconds to say some new things, and then they are just talking and talking. So for those people, you can't tell a lot. You can't tell even a little. Just a couple of words you're telling. So that's extreme case, but I have this experience, so that's not a good experience. You're not feeling connected with those people. You are just feeling attacked. You are just feeling, oh, they have their opinion and they are controlling everything with that opinion, and they just want to say everything. It's like talking with a radio. You don't feel like you are connecting with that person.
If you talk to the radio does not judge you. Radio does not hear you. But sometimes people judge, and this is the thing that we are afraid. But I think a lot of time the openness, the vulnerability spreads easily when you are open. Oftentimes the person that you're having the conversation also find this openness inside of them and vulnerability inside of them. But yeah, it's not always in our control. We can only try and learn by doing.
Yeah, I totally agree. That could be just a tip how to start the conversation, maybe to encourage other person to open up. But of course, it doesn't work for everyone.
So speaking about more like mechanical things, if you find yourself that you don't know what to talk about, and you are in the environment when you do not have this opportunity to have these deep conversations, oftentimes small talk can help you. And when you are in a new environment, if you're feeling lost, this is some examples. What can you talk about with your colleagues, with other volunteers, or the people that you met? So I would like to share some small talk ideas. You can start easy. I'm volunteering here with Erasmus project. How about you? What brought you to this place? And this gives the opportunity for the person to speak about themselves and what specifically brought them into this exact place and time. Another thing that you can ask recommendations for the places, for the food, such as, I'm still exploring this city. Do you have any favorite spots or off the beaten path places you recommend? This is a very practical question. You can also ask about food. Let's say, I love food. What's your favorite local dish? And where can I find the best version of it? You can ask about activities. Let's say, what do you enjoy doing during your free time? I'm always looking for new activities to try, especially since I'm in a new place. And you can make these questions even more personal. Let's say, yeah, that sounds unique. How did you find out about this place? What do you like about this place and this activity? So this gives you an opportunity for the person to open up, and you will get to know them. These are just phrases. These are just questions for you to talk and maybe have this opportunity to get into a deeper conversation. Another thing, you can have some cultural exchange by asking, I'm curious about this local culture here. Can you share some unique traditions or customs that I may not be familiar with? Are there any upcoming events or festivals that I shouldn't miss? I would love to experience the local celebrations. You can ask language-related questions, such as, I'm still learning a local language. Do you have any tips or favorite phrases that might help?
Yeah, I agree with this one about learning languages. So especially during Erasmus projects, there are usually people from 5, 6, 7 countries. So you can just ask that person, how is hi in your language? How is thank in your language? How you calculate in your language? So then you quite easily communicate with other people.
Another thing that you can ask is about their future travel plans. The question could be, are there any destination you've been dreaming of visiting? I'm always looking for traveling inspiration and would love to hear from you. Maybe the person will share about their country and you will get to know, oh, okay, in Croatia, there is a small city that I can visit. And sometimes you get unique answers and maybe the person will share more about their countries and you will have this culture exchange feeling in the air.
Another thing that we can use is icebreakers. During my university times, we had one session with communication specialist. And we had a task to go to the city and just speak with two strangers just about this student stance academy that you are in. And one tip from that person we got is to just ask, could you help me? And usually everyone wants to help people. And usually, yes, they say, yes, I want to help. And you can just then continue conversation. So that's, hey, I have this task to just speak with two strangers. So I just started talking to you about this. That is just a part of the task. So yeah, I think it's quite good tip is just a question starting talking to a new person is just, could you help me? And yeah, usually that works.
Mm-hmm. I think this is quite a experience to come to new people with just walking down your local street that you may even know somewhere, and to ask it makes you braver, but also I'm happy that everyone agreed to help, and it builds this trust in society that that they agreed to help.
Yeah, and when they also answers you that yes, they also commits to you to help you at some level. So if you get yes, so that's a good sign to you.
Yes. I prepared some easier icebreakers. If you are like just trying to get to know each other, you can invite them to play. Let's say there is a game, 2 truths and 1 lie. Let's play a game. Tell me 2 truths and 1 lie about yourself, and I will try to guess which one is the lie. And this gets you into playful mode and not to be so serious, not trying to prove yourself somehow and so on. And during the games, you can learn a lot about the other person and you can also be your playful you.
I would say this would work even better in a group where there is no 2 people. It could be like 3, 4, or even more people. So everyone can talk about themselves, and this game could be quite natural, sharing more about ourselves.
Yeah, we usually played this game in a couple of Erasmus projects, and it's quite a good experience to just go in a circle, random circle, just any person, and just take 5-10 minutes and to just try to guess. It's quite easy to get to know each other.
And it opens up pathways to different topics that you may talk to the person, rather than you trying to push it somehow. This is the game, this is the tool that you can use. But also you can ask simple questions such as, what was your favorite childhood game or activity? Do you still enjoy it today? And it also brings the person to their childhood when they were just playing. So the playful energy is there. You can ask, if you could have any superpower, what would it be? And how would you use it in your everyday life? So this is also a question that seems silly, but you can learn about each other and be silly together. And you understand their energy, you understand how they're operating. And it's easy question, nothing too personal, but also an opportunity to learn about each other.
Also, a similar question that you mentioned is, what profession would you like to take if you earn the same salary? I got this question a couple of times from my manager when we had a team building activity. I think it also opened up why the person would like to maybe change the profession and what features are valuable to that person. Another one is about spiritual animal. What is your spiritual animal? So you talk about why would you choose that animal and how you understand the nature, how you relate to that animal, and what maybe common animals you have in your team or maybe with another person.
Or maybe your behaviors is somehow similar to that animal, so that you can relate to.
Yeah.
So you talked about the small talk and icebreakers, and it has its place. And what I was thinking is that sometimes the small talk has some negative associations. And the small talk that you talked about, it was quite useful. It was connecting. But some small talk is like about the weather. So you can't talk about the weather that much, or you can't talk about some very uninteresting things for both sides. So it's not connecting, and it makes the conversation boring. Even though it has its place, it's quite useful to move on from the small talk to the big talk. And quite long ago, I have found on internet some big talk questions, and I could read to you some of them. The examples could be, what do you wish you had more time to do? So this opens up, and you can personally share. What do you want to do more in your life? Maybe you're doing too much something. Maybe you don't have enough free time, but you would like to do something. You are opening up as much as you like, yeah? What else do you have? How do you think you spend too much time doing? Yeah, similar thing that I said before. What gives you hope? What life advice would you offer to a newborn infant? What holds you back from doing the things you really want to do? What are the little things you stop to appreciate and enjoy? If you had 24 hours left to live, who would you be with in 23 hours? The last hour, what you will spend. So that's about the priorities in your life. What do you miss? Where would you like to wake up tomorrow? How do you feel about birthdays? So that's quite simple thing, but personally, I feel quite uncomfortable. And if that person is also feeling uncomfortable, that can be connecting. If not, it's just a sharing. And we have a lot more. What makes your heart happy? And so on. So these questions are much more connecting.
One similar question that you mentioned, what would you do if there are only 24 hours left in your life? Another question could be, what would you do if you win a lottery and you get 10 million euros? So that also opens up and shares the attitude of the person.
Yeah, it's about your values. How would you like to spend the last hour, the time, or how would you like to spend the resources that you have, the financial resources, yeah? What would you do? Would you invest? Would you spend on yourself? Would you donate it or so on, yeah? It's about the values.
I completely agree that small talk has its space and big talk also has its space. When you are only two together, or maybe having this close circle where you are exploring these topics.
But sometimes it's really hard to think about those big talk questions. So what I just read some, so we can find it on internet, but also there are a lot of cards with different questions or apps that you can download and just have those questions. So what I would offer you, if you are having small talk, just have it, and then later on, if you want to connect with that person, just ask that person, would you like to play this game? Or on the app, and there are some different questions that is just going randomly and you don't know what the question will be and you're just answering. Or you can just find on the internet, let's answer these questions. So also some playfulness in this, and just move on to the deeper conversation.
I agree. You can use the tools that might be there. I think these questions may not be for everyone, but I love these kind of conversations where you meet new people and you both are surprised how much you shared and what a nice conversation there was. We spoke about what kind of tools you can use to connect to people, what is in our hands, what is not in our hands, but we still have this fear of rejection and how to deal with this rejection for ourselves. And therefore, I would like to ask you, Have you ever experienced rejection, and how did you deal with that?
I think, of course, I experienced rejections. However, I think that we shouldn't take those rejections personally and just try to forget them. So maybe that's why I can't remember any rejection.
I have quite similar experience to Paulus. I don't remember at the moment rejections that happened to me. The same goes usually with negative things that happen in my life, at least the ones that happened long ago. But what I could share with you is the experience from quite recent and during the last couple months that happened to me. So it was in the work. So I'm a junior doctor and I was in the first day in department that I'm new in. I don't know the rules. And I was sitting on the sofa before morning meeting. And the nurse comes to me and she is not saying hello or anything. She is saying to me, "Get up." And I'm shocked with the tone and so on. I'm just sitting and I'm just shocked about the experience. And she's saying, "Get up." So I'm feeling uncomfortable. I'm getting up and I'm standing nearby. And then the meeting goes on. And during that time, I was really amazed about the experience. I was thinking, what happened? Why it happened? I felt that there is some aggression to me. I felt that it's very uncomfortable to me. So what I did, then I was sharing my experience of this with the other colleagues, other junior doctors. And that sharing helped me to ventilate and also to get their perspective to the situation. And they're saying, yeah, it's not normal. It's not the things that should happen. And that helps for me to feel better. Because maybe not all the time we can have conversation with the person that is really having us to feel those feelings that is uncomfortable to us, but then we can talk with some other people that can help with that situation.
It could be one of the approaches to bond. It could be bonding during trauma. There is such a thing when you are experiencing similar traumas. It's not like a trauma that you mentioned, but similar struggles, you can bond through them. And usually the bond is very strong through that. When I'm thinking about the times that I was rejected, I do remember, but because it was a long period of time, I used to swim, and during my swimming years, I experienced bullying. And it was not one day, it was not 2 days, it was several years. I thought I don't remember it, but as I understand myself more, I do realize that this fear of rejection is still here in me. And even though after that, I don't remember the last time that I was rejected so hard from the group, but I do find myself in a new group that I'm thinking, oh, I must find someone to talk to. I must build this connection because maybe it's somehow dangerous for me. And in those moments, I remember the feelings where I was rejected. But then when I grow up, when I'm reflecting my experiences and the things, I realize that sometimes this fear is not about the current situation. It was about the situations when I was little, when I was swimming. And it helps me realize that, okay, the danger is not here. Now, what is now happening, that I'm just standing in the corner and I'm not talking to anyone and I'm trying to be invisible. And therefore, no one is talking to me. But that's the only reason why I'm not spoken to, because I'm hiding. And I'm realizing it, okay, so I have to make an effort and go out. It's not that no one is paying attention to me, but I'm actually hiding. So therefore, it's normal that no one is talking to me.
I would say bullying is very traumatizing experience, and quite a lot of people experience that in the childhood, and it affects our behavior later on. And even in the work, some people are acting based on the rules that they learned in the childhood, and the background that we have is different. And some has more of those bullying moments, some less.
But if you're mentioning that a lot of people have experienced it, maybe it could be a bonding experience for you.
Yeah. I had also bullying for sure. Yeah. I was in the childhood, I was overweight. And that was one of the things. And there was a lot more things that someone can make fun of you. But I think we should summarize this podcast episode. So what we talked is that we are not responsible fully for the conversation that we have with a new person that we met. We are partially responsible. We are responsible about our behavior, our openness, how we will talk, how we will behave. But it really also depends how the other person responds. And our attitude to conversation depends on self-confidence. We can get more self-confidence during our life if we are doing something and we are comfortable with that situation. Then we can be also comfortable in another situation and another. So we are broadening our comfortability in lots of different situations, and that makes us more self-confident. If we don't have self-confidence, then we are searching for the approval of the other person very much. And if that person is behaving not in the most beautiful way that he could communicate, that could also just reject us, and then we may not have conversation. Even though that person may not feel that, but we may think that he feels and so on. But if we have self-confidence, so we can have conversation as we like, and it really can happen much better. So it helps for sure, I would say.
I think speaking about rejection, it's also important to have a concrete and realistic evaluation. What does it mean? Okay, I had a conversation, I tried to approach the person, and maybe I ask him out or ask her out, and then I get a rejection. She or he doesn't want to be friends with me, she or he doesn't want to go out with me. And what does it mean? In realistic approach, it means nothing more that this person does not want to go out with me. And that means nothing about me. It doesn't say, oh, I'm not friendly, I'm stupid, I'm just unsuccessful as a human being, and so on. It only means that this specific person in this specific time, in these circumstances, and the lifetime that he or she has, she or he does not want to go out with me, doesn't want to be friends with me, or so on. But it says nothing about you, and this approach might take some weight off your shoulder.
That's a great statement, Gabriela. I really agree with this. And sometimes we overthink that little thing means that, and it just grows to a big thing that, it means that my life will be over if someone is just not saying positive thing when I will talk with that person. No, it doesn't mean. It's just small thing, as you, Gabriela, said.
And when you, Tadas, spoke about self-confidence, so I think for some people that self-confidence just is from the birth and they naturally has it. But of course, I think that self-confidence could be built just from trying to do things, and just you won't hurt just by trying. You can just think about the results, maybe what could you do something different next time, and just iteration by iteration, just by experience, you will eventually will have more confidence when you have some successful cases. Because of course, every case can be successful, and having some rejections is a natural process.
I totally agree with you, Paulus, because personally I also shared in this episode that I built my confidence, self-confidence, and it's not only given, and we can learn a lot of things. And I would not agree at all with the people that is saying that, oh, you're born with it and you can't change anything. You can change a lot about your life. But I would also share that neuroplasticity, the ability to learn new things and to adapt to an environment, is lowering with years. So it means that later on it's harder. So it's easier for the young people, and later on it can become harder.
So I would like to sum up then. To answer the question, will I be able to connect to new people? You cannot answer, but there are things that you can do to improve the probability that you will bond to them. There are things that is out of your control, and we have to only accept them and work around these circumstances. And yes, we also discussed that self-confidence often helps in the situations where you approaching new people and building new connections. And this self-confidence may be natural for you. Maybe you have built it, or maybe you are still feel not confident enough. And to feel stronger, maybe you can use some of the phrases that we talked, or maybe realization that there are things in my control, there are things under my control, but you're learning it, and this is a skill. And as every skill, it's try, understanding, reflecting, changing the circumstances, and trying again, try and fail, as we talked before. Thank you for today's episode.
Thank you, dear listeners. See you in other episodes. Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye.